well, or however that works for you.
What was the name of that again, Chris? I'm sorry.
It's called Descript.
Descript. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you end up making videos just from your phone, there is an app. It's called Captions. It might cost something. I don't know if it does cost anything. Maybe like a premium costs $5 or something like that. But that one is pretty cool too, because right from your phone, you can add captions and then have it in whatever font you want. It even adds little emojis and stuff like that. We don't really put that on ours, but hey, emojis can be good sometimes. But yeah, those are the main ways of doing it. And again, if you guys have questions with that after the fact, please reach out. Happy to share those. Now this is so chopping those into the small clips will give you about 10 clips. You have 10 questions, it'll give you 10 clips. And this is kind of one of the key pieces is release these clips over the course of the month. You can release about 2 to 3 per week. And that will cover most of your month, especially if you're not doing videos now, even just starting with 2 or 3 each week, 10 each month, you're going to be seen by a lot more people than you are now by doing nothing. And one of the ways that we really got a lot of our views from this was because we took each of these clips and we released them on at least 3 platforms. So with each video, you now have 3 posts. So 10 videos turns into 30 posts in the course of a month, and you're almost at minimum tripling your exposure. But as those perform better, it just kind of compounds on top of that. I'm throwing a lot at you guys. So please, what questions do you guys have?
Chris, I have a couple of questions, I think. So the first one is, how long would these 2 to 3, when you chop them down into the 10 clips, is it like a 10-minute clip or is it like a 2-minute clip?
Generally speaking, they range anywhere from like 15 seconds to 2 minutes.
Okay.
And a big part of it too, I do get this question a lot because people are concerned like, hey, I'm not really able to put all the info that I need into a really short video clip. And that's actually okay, because if you try to really cram a lot of info into a short video clip, you'll lose people. And also, if people aren't super aware of what you're doing now, they're probably not going to listen to a 2 or a 5-minute long video. But over the course of 2 or 3 months, if they keep seeing you and hearing you talk for 15, 20, 30 seconds, over that course of time, they'll start to put all of these things together to understand who you are and what you do. And by the time, and if they are an ideal client, then by that time, they'll be willing to listen to a 5 or a 10-minute long video. Because if you can solve that problem for them and you might be that person, okay, I'll give you more time. But if they don't really know who you are or what you do, they won't give you that time off the bat. Most likely, there's always the edge cases, but yeah.
Okay. And then my other question is, you had said, have somebody ask you to make it more natural. I don't really have somebody to do that. Is it okay if I were to say, a lot of clients ask me about blah, 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 here's whatever? I mean, is that okay? That's
absolutely totally okay. It's more of a preference thing that we've seen, just because it helps the camera kind of melt away. But
yeah,
otherwise, no restrictions. You totally can do this by yourself. There's plenty of people doing this, by themselves, and it totally works. We're in the infinite echo.
Thank you, Chris.
Does that help, Tracy? Cool.
Totally, it really does. Thank you very much.
Chris, have you ever experimented with doing like an answer to a question, like the initial portion is just a real clear, short, concise answer, and then maybe doing a pause, offering additional, and almost like starting with the real basic, straightforward, and then giving them more on separate posts or something like that? Is that something that would make sense to do that, to give them additional info on subsequent posts?
Yeah, Absolutely. And so you can answer like the quick version that just gets right to it. And then you can even just like take a quick breath so you have a little bit of space, and then do the slightly longer version that really digs into each. And so if you've got, so let's say you've got like a slightly more complex idea that maybe you could break down into 5 smaller ideas. You can make one longer video about that, and then do 5 like shorter videos that just give like the highlight of that portion of the idea, this portion of the idea, this portion. And then as people find that and they're interested, then maybe you put that slightly longer one on your YouTube or on your website, or you have a link, in Vimeo or something that you can send them as like, you notice on LinkedIn, this same person liked my video, all 5 of these short videos that I put out. Let me send them a quick message to connect and say like, hey, thanks for checking all these out. I appreciate it. If you want to know more, here's a slightly longer one that gives the full scope of the idea. And then, then the few days later, you can follow up and be like, hey, did you check out that video? What did you get out of it? That kind of thing.
You're on mute.
Actually, it brings up another quick question. I should have that down by now. You're manually tracking all the responses? Is there anything that kind of can automatically do that rather than having to go and look at the individual likes and try to compare those cross platforms?
Yeah, there's different tools out there that can do it. One thing that I've noticed, just even as somebody that this is kind of my business, if you're a smaller business, especially if you're putting these things out as an individual person, the overall metrics are somewhat helpful because you can kind of get like a bigger scale trend. But sometimes if you look at too big of a picture, you kind of miss like the individual opportunities that this stuff really creates. Because if you look at all these things and it's like, oh man, I know I put it at the beginning, but it's like 165,000 views. That's awesome. But then you got to kind of look back as like, what does that really do for my business getting that many views? Like, what's really the point of that? And for me, I just put it in that context because the number kind of like catches people's attention. But really what that's made out of is like 300 views here, 500 views here. 2 people like this. And this is a marketing director from a company that I've been trying to connect with for a while. Cool. It's on her radar. Let me now call her and introduce myself like on the phone and in person. So I haven't found that these high level analytics have been super useful for me as a smaller business owner, because they're almost like they kind of get to vanity metrics a little bit. Whereas the value I see is kind of staying on top of it and using this as an additional sales method and true networking method where, you can actually use it to talk to people versus, 100 likes is great. But if I get 3 likes and it's the person that I wanted to talk to, that's been more valuable for me.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah. It almost forces you to have a more personal interaction anyway, which is ideally what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, I try to use LinkedIn to be as close to the real world as I can, because it's very easy to like use LinkedIn and be disconnected. That's what I did for a long time, and I didn't see any success on it really. I don't know. It felt like hollow interactions, and lately in the past 6 months through doing this, I've just had much better conversations where I've actually been able to help people, which makes me want to keep doing it, because before I was like, what the hell am I putting these videos out for? I don't know what I'm doing. So that shift has been very impactful.
Good. Appreciate that, Chris.
Sure.
Yeah, I've got a similar kind of follow-up question is, going back to that 165,000 views, if that's a great, goal that you have, you said to spend an hour or so creating the video. How much time should you allow for answering the replies or contacting people and doing the follow-up?
I do try to set 30 to 60 minutes a day just open for both LinkedIn and Instagram. That seems to be the two places on social media platforms that we get the most actual engagement, where people have like real questions and things like that. So I try to set that time aside and make sure I at least put that into it.
Okay.
So could I ask you a question just about like LinkedIn and things like that?
Sure.
So are you currently using LinkedIn now to network and everything like that?
I mean, I'm on it, but in the past, all of the stuff I did seemed to just find a bunch of marketing people who kept pestering me about what they were selling.
Yep.
So not successfully, but I'm on it.
Okay. Got it. Well, and maybe we could have a conversation offline I'd just be curious to see like who you're selling to and who you're trying to communicate with. And then, I don't know, maybe I could point you in the right direction just in terms of like what you could make and see if that would help change anything. Don't want to put you on the spot with that, but if you want it, please like reach out and I can at least try to help.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in the process of kind of branding myself, and then the next step is, what to do with that. So
Cool.
good timing.
Sweet. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for asking. I appreciate it. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Hey, Chris, I have a question. Lisa Shell, I love this so far, and you may already be planning to cover it, but I'm curious if you have any best practices or tips around how to actually position the clips once you have them, like in terms of the post content.
When you say position, what do you mean?
Well, like a setup, for example, if I were to appear on someone else's podcast, that's an easy setup, right? Oh, it was, you see this a lot. I was, had a great time talking to so-and-so on their podcast. So how would you set up this type of a clip?
So with these shorter form pieces of content, I almost break it out into two different presentations, right? So if you have LinkedIn, people seem to give you a little bit more leeway, and it doesn't have to be so fast, but they want it to have more value. So if you're going to make a clip that's 1 to 2 minutes long and put it on LinkedIn, I'd say make sure it has value, like it can teach people something or it talks about something in your industry that people need to know about, but maybe they don't quite understand, or they just kind of hear about it, and you can clarify some of that. So in the posts, that might be, so what's your industry?
Brand messaging and marketing.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So it's working with like business owners and things like that, different businesses. Yeah. And so it can be put in different ways of like, here's what most business owners miss about branding, or here's the disconnect between how you say your mission statement and how people hear it. Like I'm literally pulling that kind of out of my ass a little bit, but that's kind of the like the way you can position it is for whatever that thing that they might need is to kind of meet them there with that. So with LinkedIn, I think those can be a little bit more, you can let it breathe a little bit. It can be a little longer, but bring value. And then with the Instagram, YouTube shorts, kind of TikTok stuff, I recommend making that like get right into the meat of it. So it's like 15, 30 seconds. Here's the point. Boom, here you go. And then it's done. On to the next thing. And those are the things where you don't need to convey that bigger idea in a really short video. It can just be like, here's a part of branding that you know. Here's another part. Here's mistakes that people make. Here's what I made a mistake with earlier. Here's what we get right. And here's what our customers do. Like, and just kind of make those more like pepper them, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Cool. Sweet. Okay. Let me see what we have next year.